I'd like to do is tell you a story about a data team that's taking their first steps away from daily updates, where the only thing better than a full refresh is an incremental refresh. That's basically where we were at, or are at. Hold on, next slide. So my name is Pálmi Símonarson. I work on data things for Reykjavík Energy, which is a utilities and power generation and fiber optic company in Reykjavík, Iceland. And in my spare time, I have practiced martial arts called Aikido for almost 30 years now. And it's interesting that Aikido has a lot in, well, similar things than in data. So it's a lot about cooperation, about trust, and about responsiveness. And what I found is that it also creates a community, which is exactly what we have here. And just on Monday, I was down in Bristol playing with some guys that do Aikido over there. Never met them before. But yeah, just come over and we'll fight it out and have a beer later on. So, this is I took this as a screenshot from a slide deck that I have maintained over the years. It's basically a data warehouse, combination of facts and dimensions and raw data that we provide to our in-house clients. Over 50 systems, different connected source systems, and it delivers data to dashboards and other systems and reports and all the basic things that we have in a regular warehouse. So the next thing that happens is this. A guy comes to me and says, well, you have to connect a new system. System number 51. No problem. It has MQTT. What? There's no database. And no. And we have to have real-time updates to our dashboards. And this is actually a photograph of me that end of that day. How can we do this? And well, I'm going to say that a couple of years back, we would have done some strange things. We would have to try to capture the MQTT at the source directly to a database and then do a replication into the warehouse. But being stubborn and all, we still decided not to do that and decided, well, let's try a cloud solution. That was basically our first cloud solution, first attempt at creating anything in Azure. So some clever people have come up with architectures that we thought would be convenient for us to use. We need some message ingestion. We need stream processing, a data store, and some reporting on top of that. So we said, oh, okay, these things are available. Let's make a go at it. So a couple of days go by, maybe a week, and the first subscriptions, resource groups, and everything was created. And then we started building. Well, not building, pointing and clicking, selecting. And in a day, after we started creating new resources, we were able to capture data inside the cloud boundary, streaming from our end equipment. MQTT, we had an in-house RabbitMQ broker, and we used a Shovel MQ plugin to create an AMQP connection to the Events Hub. I was pretty happy. Not a single line of code was written. And that's, for me, that looked like a kind of big deal. There was no line of code. And it was working. We had direct data capture inside the Event Hub and capturing our data into a data lake in a Avro file format. Maybe not the nicest thing. But event hubs allow us to ingest high amounts of data, and it's fully managed, and it can connect to a couple of, connect to or accept data from a couple of sources, and it can distribute the data to a lot of sources, directly to the event grid or all sorts of things that connect directly to event hubs. So, okay, now we have the data in the cloud, but it's kind of unusable, and it's just raw data, and we had to do a little bit more research, look at other things, and now I just remember. I tried reading these Avro files with a data factory, and it was not a nice experience. And, but it was not, of course, not a streaming thing anymore. So we think, so what do we need? Maybe there's another service that allows us to continue on a streaming path. So let's go with stream analytics. It's in the name. And what brought me into it, you do it with SQL. And basically, you have an input, you can transform it on the way, and you select it into an output of your choice. And since this was our first attempt at streaming, and we had created the data hub, and then in the Azure portal, if you create a data hub, you can create a stream analytics job directly from there. And you kind of think like, oh, you need one job for one activity. No. You could connect a lot of data types into a single stream analytics job, and you can connect a lot of outputs to a single stream analytics job. So this is what we built in the next week. So not a single line of code, well, a little bit of SQL, a page of SQL was needed to transform our data into 3 different data stores. And the reason we decided we really weren't sure where to go. We were just learning, and so we decided, well, let's put it in JSON. That's easy. You don't have to do anything. You can read it, and let's put it in Parquet, and we'll make a long-term storage. But all our users, they are SQL-oriented. They know how to work. So park it. What am I to do with that? So we dropped it into a SQL database as well. That's easy for everyone. So we're both trying to experiment and keep everyone happy at the same time. So, yeah, that's basically what I was saying. We had tooling, and we tried, or our users tried to build dashboards in Tableau on top of it. Not really happy, and then someone came up with the idea, well, let's use this Grafana tool. It's not streaming, but our data stream is actually messages coming every 12 seconds from a lot of sensors, and by asking Grafana to update the dashboards every 5 seconds, then you have a semi-streaming solution. It was perfect. It works perfect for everyone. So here's what we built in the first round. And basically, we had a RabbitMQ cluster on site, event hubs for ingestion, streaming for transformation, and 3 different data stores, and users built their own dashboards in Grafana in a couple of hours. So that was really cool. And coming from 3 different clients, we could have used IO hubs, but we had other reasons for keeping some of the things in-house. Separate development and production environments, or almost separate. One thing we made to keep costs down on the development side was an on-off controller, because Stream Analytics is really fast at doing this, and this was not so much of a large volume of data. So putting it on for 1 hour every day, streamed everything into our databases. And event type can hold on to your data for, I think, 1 day in the least expensive, 7 days in the standard, and then you go for longer term. So all the data was kept or persisted basically in the event hub and ready as long as you remember to start your your Stream Analytics jobs at the time when it stopped, not now, which is a default. I remember I had a difficult afternoon when I thought, this is not going to work, until I figured out, oh, you've been stopping it with a start from now, and then I thought everything was lost, and it doesn't work. So not a complete solution, but this is what we built in the first round and made our users really happy. And made us really happy because we hadn't built anything before. And it's well, I'm going to say it's the least effort solution for building something that handles streaming data. So we had the same team, and to do this, of course, we needed some skills. And we have been using, well, Microsoft's data platform in-house. So Microsoft Learn was basically our tool of choice. We worked with a bit in one small pilot project before with consultants that helped us get going. And then we had everyone take their first Azure degree. Get your first Azure degree. And it's not that complicated. It takes, like I say to people, you have to wake up on Sunday morning, 8 to 11, for 1 month, and then you're ready to go. Before everyone else wakes up in your home. So use that time. But you also have to think a little bit differently about how to handle things when things go wrong. If things go wrong in your data warehouse, well, you just rebuild it from the data that you have. But when things go wrong here, and all of these messages, if they are corrupt here, how do you redo it? And you have to have some processes in place and a little bit of thinking on how do you basically restream your data. And it's possible. You just have to, it's a little bit different than having to reload the data from the source system. So, what about costs? People have said this is not the most or least expensive service. That would be Stream Analytics. But if you figure out there's no upfront cost, there's little or there's less implementation time, and you also have to choose something that you are a little bit familiar with. So that's one of the reasons why we choose to put everything in a SQL, though it costs more, and it costs quite a bit. But for a system that receives about 1.1 million measurements per day, it doesn't cost that much. And it was delivered in a very short time. It was operational in a very short time. And using these services is very convenient as a starting point because it's a very low barrier entry. You can just point. There's almost no programming, and it basically works. Yeah, for this instance, I don't have the actual cost, but Azure SQL is actually the most important, most expensive thing here in this setup. So now we have two worlds. We still have all the 50 source systems left, and we have to manage our data warehouse, and we have to manage our streaming platform. We still have separate worlds, but we're moving in the direction of merging those worlds. It's not there. We're not there. There are two things that we have to look at. But in our database or data warehouse orchestration tool, we can use that to monitor the streaming. If data is not coming into the table, then something is wrong. It doesn't provide you with real-time information, but it does help quite a bit. Yeah, we needed a few new tools. Some of them are basic, some of them are a little bit more complex. And these two tools on the end are very high level. So you connect, there's almost no glue in between. This is if you want to build from small Lego blocks or something where you have to choose every block. Otherwise, you just pick these high-level components, and they work for you. So our key takeaways: datasets that are streaming in nature can be processed and analyzed using readily available platform as a service components. And this is readily as available. Nothing was built except a few lines of SQL and maybe 20 lines of an Azure function to optimize cost. Very low entry barrier solutions. And we do need a little bit of new thinking around processing individual business events. Use MS-Learn, get some external knowledge, and if you can, use the fast track program with Microsoft. It helps quite a bit. And I think our key message is that it is possible to stop both loading everything all the time. So I think that's the end of the session. Photo is from second to last eruption in Iceland back in 2021. And this tablet I brought from the fires of the middle of the earth. You see my hand is not scorched or anything, but actually after just staying in that position for the time it took to take the photo, my jacket was dry on the right-hand side, but it was still wet on the left-hand side. If you have questions, then I'm here, and we really like your feedback. Yes.
So having imported your message data, did you take any business structure, or did you have to try and merge those messages with any of your own business?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I didn't. We did. You can use. I'm going to repeat the question. Did we merge any other business data with our streaming data? Yes, we did. And there's a separate function in that in Stream Analytics. I think I call it the reference data, where you can use queries into a SQL database and join on these queries. So you can join additional information on the streaming data. And it has some really nice features. In the initial phase, we had messages in very different formats, and you can, using SQL-like plus, well, SQL-like functions with additional JSON functionality to pivot and loop over arrays and make arrays into lines or make columns into lines, and it's really nice.
So did that data go into the Parquet files, or
yes,
the thing as well? So,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
Okay, so you merged it into the JSON, or in...
Yeah, you can do what you merge it into your stream. So when you get into stream analytics, it's just columns, except you have if you have nested or weird JSON objects. So I think it's time. Thank you for being here, and please put your feedback in, and I'll be here if you have any further questions.